Do your joints get stiff after being in the car for a while, making it hard to get out of the car, and maybe even feel like you have to hobble for the first few steps getting out? Well, in this video, I'm going to show you some movements you can do to help reduce the stiffness when you get out of the car, but also some simple things you can do to manage the stiffness when you're in the car. So my name's Alyssa, and I'm a doctor of physical therapy, and I'm an osteoarthritis specialist. And my mission is to help bring you hope and optimism and tips you can use to get out there and adventure with osteoarthritis. So let's get started. Okay, so I'm going to show you 3 movements you can do in the car and then 3 movements you can do outside of the car. Now, these are going to work best if you're a passenger, just because you have some more space and we're not trying to impede safety at all. One of the things to focus on is to change your leg positioning. So a lot of times we kind of sit naturally just in this 90-degree position, but I want you to think about seeing if you can change this position a little bit, of trying to straighten your legs the best that you can. I know we don't have a lot of space, but just trying to get out of this 90-degree position can be helpful. So if you'll feel comfortable sitting in a position where your legs are a little straighter, you can do that. Or you can also just every 15 to 20 minutes alternate just stepping forward like this for about 15 to 20 times, as long as it feels okay for you. Now, number 2 is working on the ankles. So ankle swelling and lower leg swelling can be common just because gravity is pulling that fluid down. But our muscles work as a pump to pump that fluid back up. So just one simple thing you can do here is work on toe raises and then heel raises. Toe raises and then heel raises. So what you're doing is working the muscles in your lower legs to help pump that fluid out, but also making sure that your ankles aren't going to stiffen up. Okay, so thirdly, we're gonna talk about lower back and hip stiffness. A lot of times when you're sitting in a car, we kind of get into these slouched positions, and those muscles then don't tend to get a lot of movement. And when they don't get a lot of movement, then they can get stiff. One thing you can do when you're sitting is rotate through 2 different positions of your back. The first one we're going to kind of round out, and then the second one we're going to actually arch up. So you're going to round and then arch, round and then arch. And it's just a small movement. We don't have to like crunch up or arch as far as we can. It's just a small movement, and essentially you're kind of moving your hips back and then forward, back and then forward. So you're just kind of rotating through that. The idea is to contract those muscles and then to allow those muscles to relax to help kind of get rid of some of that stiffness. Just doing anywhere between 5 to 10 of those can be sufficient. And depending on how stiff your back feels, doing them more frequently can be helpful to kind of ward off that stiffness if it does come on relatively quickly. Okay, so now we're going to talk about movements you can do outside of the car before you go into the store, while you're pumping gas, or when you're just at a pit stop for a road trip. The first one is going to be working on the knee stiffness. So like we were mentioning before, the knees can get stiff in this bent position. So one thing you can do is then take it through that full range of motion. So you're going to bend that heel up and then straighten it back down. And I do like to alternate on this one. Bring your heel up just as far as is comfortable and then back down into a straight position. So this is kind of going with that same contract, relax theory. We want to contract these muscles and then allow them to relax to reduce some tightness, reduce some stiffness. Anywhere between 10 to 20 repetitions of this movement can be helpful. Honestly, it's whatever feels good to you. And you can use support if needed, if it's not so comfortable to put all of your weight on one side. Now, the second one is going to be dealing with some of that hip and low back stiffness. So this one, all we're going to do is take our leg and move it in kind of a forwards and backwards position. This is going to bring kind of a nice oscillating movement into the hip. So we're just making those muscles, again, contract and relax in a way that feels okay. Now, if it is hard for you to put all of your weight on one side, another thing you can do is actually just lightly step forwards and backwards. Because your hip moves in 3 directions, forward, sideways, and backwards. So we want to kind of hit all of those directions. So you can just kind of lightly step forwards and backwards. Now, the one that's left over is sideways. So we want to kind of go into that light oscillating movement sideways. Again, it's not taking it out as far as you can. It's just a very small movement just to allow those muscles to activate and then relax. And then we would do both or all 3 directions on each side. So we would do that forwards and backwards and then that sideways. Usually about 10 to 20 seconds may be sufficient, but if your hip does get pretty tight or you've been sitting for quite a while, then you may want to go a little bit longer, as long as it feels good to you. And now the third one is actually addressing those ankles. So it's going to be very similar to the seated one, because I really like this one because it encompasses both movements. So this one I would recommend holding on for support, but you're gonna raise up on your toes, and then you're going to lean back with your hips and lift your toes up. So you're gonna raise up on your toes, and then you're gonna lift those toes. But you want to make sure, especially as you go back, that you take your hips with you. This is going to bring your chest forward and counteract the weight moving backwards. Versus if we just kind of stay up tall, you may find yourself falling backwards. So make sure you take your hips with you as you do this. Again, those muscles are acting like pumps. 10 to 20 repetitions can be helpful for this one. Depending on how swollen your ankles are or how stiff they feel, you may need to do more. Or if they do feel a little challenging because those ankles are stiff, just try not to go up as far. Just go up as far as feels comfortable to you, just so we can get some of that muscle movement going. So do what feels good to you. None of these should flare or increase pain. We're trying to decrease some of that muscle tightness and muscle stiffness. And if you are looking for arthritis-friendly workouts, arthritis-friendly movements, arthritis-friendly exercises, I have you covered. So I actually have a free 4-day arthritis-friendly workout challenge that works great if you're preparing for a trip, if you are wanting to get better at walking, or just wanting to feel stronger. This is for you. Now the link is going to be down below. You'll get 4 workouts led by me sent straight to your email. So again, link down below, or you can go to arthritisadventure.com/challenge to learn more and sign up. I hope this video is helpful, and I hope that you take this video and me with you on your next road trip. Enjoy.